The number one mistake every coach development officer must avoid. Hey, Sarah here with another video for every sports and coach development officer who wants to find coach development opportunities in really unusual places and guarantee coaches stay within their scope of practice without having to convince them to specialize in areas they don't want to. So, what is the first mistake? Well, the biggest mistake is trying to find opportunities in the sports injury where there aren't any. And I'm just going to give you a few insights that's going to help you to understand what I mean. So the first one is that pain comes from restricted movement. So restrictions in the body somewhere in the joints, they cause pain elsewhere. So what I mean by that is the knee is a perfect example. Okay, so I'm going to use these building blocks here to show you what I mean. There we are. All right, so if the yellow block is the thigh bone and the green block is the shin, then it's easy to see the knee functioning in a state that it should be. Okay, so the gap between the bones where the cartilage sits, all that kind of stuff. And when this knee is sitting well, it doesn't have pain. But if there's a restriction in the ankle or the hip, then the knee gets pushed into different places and it can function differently, which over time leads to pain. Like I said, I'm going to show you with these blocks. So if, for example, the ankle is stuck or the hip is stuck, it can push the knee into a position like this. So this is where you might get the medial ligament strains. This is where you might get IT band syndrome. You might get pain in the front of the knee. You might get pain in the back of the knee, especially if there's a slight rotation in either the thigh bone or the shin bone as well. Okay, so it doesn't really matter where the pain is in the knee. That is not important to the vast majority of coaches. But for some reason, coaches think that we must, as non-injury specialist coaches, that we must know what the medical professionals know about injuries to be of any use. So they only see coach development opportunities in sports injury as specializing. And that is a huge mistake. And that leads me to my second point, which is that our opportunities lie elsewhere. Okay, so coaches, therapists and specialist coaches deal with the pain and they focus on strengthening joints to try and avoid these pain problems from coming back. So they work from the pain backwards towards pain-free movement. But pain is not our job. But that doesn't mean to say that we can't help at all. So while the therapists and the specialist coaches are looking at their area of skill and they're dealing with the pain, we can use our area of skill, which is non-painful movement, to help with the issue. So remember, the problem isn't where the pain is, usually. The problem is coming from a restricted movement somewhere else, like in the ankle or the hip. And the movement here in these joints, the restricted movement here, is not likely to be painful. So when we use our coaching skills to improve the movement in these non-painful areas, we can actually help with the situation. We don't have to copy what the medical professionals are doing, and we don't have to leave the situation alone entirely, because it's the movement restrictions that are causing the excess strain on the painful tissue. So when we reduce that strain, we actually reduce the pain. And that is where the golden opportunity lies for huge amounts of coach development. So the third thing is that non-specialist, non-injury specialist coaches are actually the key to unlocking the injury problem. So most sports injuries develop from this non-painful movement restriction. So whether it's a sprain or a strain or muscle tears or ligament ruptures or something like that, and even longer term issues like osteoarthritis develop from this lack of movement ability. So non-specialist coaches are the key to getting rid of these problems, because we're the ones who see people before this pain comes. And when we work to reduce these non-painful movement restrictions, whether people have pain or not, we can actually prevent the majority of these sports injury aches and pains from developing in the first place. And this is an approach I call injury hacking, and it's the no-risk coach development opportunity that guarantees coaches stay within their scope of practice. So what are the important points to remember from this video? One, the majority of sports injury pain happens because of joint movement restriction problems, usually somewhere else in the body. The second thing is learning how to remove these joint restrictions is an area of huge opportunity for coach development at all levels of coaching in any sport or fitness setting. And the third is that injury hacking is the only risk-free approach to sports injury that guarantees coaches stay within their scope of practice. So the truth is that you can find coach development opportunities in unusual places without having to convince coaches to specialize in areas they don't want to. So if you're a coach development officer who is genuinely interested in how to make this even easier, then just comment the word explained below and I will send you my free copy of my brochure, Injury Hacking Explained, that makes it super easy for you to find those opportunities in sports injury without having to convince coaches to specialize in areas they don't want to. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again on the next video.